They say college is the safest time of your life, late night studying, dorm parties, friends, laughter. But for 3 students, it became the beginning of their darkest nightmares. A freshman who woke to someone sitting on her bed, a business major who discovered something crawling above the ceiling tiles, and a young girl who trusted the wrong teacher and almost never made it back. These stories aren't from movies. They happen to real people. And what's worse, they could happen to anyone. When the walls that should protect you become the reason you can't sleep, that's when the real terror begins. Welcome back to Time's Midnight Nocturne ***. If you dare to step deeper into the dark with us, hit that subscribe button and stay until the end. Because tonight, you'll learn that safety is just an illusion. And sometimes, the monsters aren't under your bed. They're standing right beside it. The first year of college was supposed to be exciting new friends, freedom, late-night pizza runs. For me, it was supposed to be a fresh start. I grew up in a small, quiet town in West Virginia, and my college was only a short 15-minute drive from home. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I couldn't afford an apartment like most students who had moved off campus during the pandemic, so I stayed in the dorms, hoping to still get that college experience. My roommate and I had exchanged a few messages before move-in day. Her name isn't important. She seemed polite, maybe even friendly. But when I met her in person, something felt off. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She had this strange confidence, like she owned the place. Last semester, everyone had their own room, she told me. Her tone sharp, but calm. I did too. Until now. I laughed it off, but something in my gut twisted. The first week went by uneventfully. She spent most nights in her boyfriend's dorm, leaving me alone, which I didn't mind. Every Friday, I'd pack my weekend bag, drive home, and come back early Monday morning before class. That routine felt safe, predictable, but that safety wouldn't last. The first Monday I came back, it was barely 6 a.m. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the dorm room in a cold bluish light. She was asleep, facing the wall. I didn't have class until 10, so I dropped my bag and crawled into bed. My mattress was memory foam, soft enough that it absorbed every movement. After 10 minutes, just as I was about to drift off, I felt it a dip. The edge of the mattress sank, slow and deliberate, as if someone had leaned on it. I froze. My eyes opened wide, but I didn't move. After a few seconds, the pressure lifted. The mattress rose back up. My heart pounded so loud, it drowned out the silence. I turned my head slightly. She hadn't moved. She was still facing the wall, her breathing steady, her body still. I told myself it must have been my imagination, the weight of exhaustion tricking my senses. I forced myself back to sleep. The next Monday, the same thing happened, except worse. I had just returned from home, dropped onto my bed, and within minutes, the mattress sagged again, heavier this time, deeper, as if someone was sitting right beside me. My body locked up. I couldn't bring myself to turn around. I waited, feeling the faint vibration of someone shifting their weight. Then came the unmistakable thud of feet hitting the floor. My bed was tall, you needed a stool to climb up. Whoever jumped off wasn't me. I stayed still, forcing shallow breaths until the silence returned. When I finally turned, she was in her bed again, motionless. The logical part of me screamed for reasons: sleep paralysis, exhaustion, stress. But I could move. I knew I wasn't dreaming. And still, I didn't tell anyone. The third Monday broke me. I came in early again, sunlight barely creeping through the blinds. She was lying there, facing my bed. This time, I didn't think much of it. I lay down and tried to fall asleep. 5 minutes later, the dip returned. This time, I didn't have to wonder. Someone was sitting next to me. I squeezed my eyes shut, my breath caught in my throat. Then, something touched me. A hand, cold, trembling, pressed gently against the back of my neck. It wasn't aggressive. It didn't squeeze. It just stayed there, heavy and deliberate. The warmth of human skin sinking into mine. My blood went cold. I counted the seconds in my head, praying for it to stop. And after what felt like hours, the weight lifted. I didn't move. Not until the sun was higher and I was sure it was gone. When I finally turned, she was lying on her side again, facing the wall. The same stillness. The same slow, steady breath. I packed my bag, walked out, and called my mom. My voice was shaking so hard I could barely get the words out. She reported it to the school immediately. They moved me to a new room within the hour. I never went back to that dorm. That night, as I unpacked my things, a few memories came rushing back, small details I had brushed off. Like the time she opened a locked drawer filled with prescription bottles. 10, maybe more. For my skin, she'd said, smiling faintly. Or when she mentioned her last roommate had left suddenly, because she couldn't handle the noise. I hadn't thought much of it then. Now I did. A few days later, she texted me. Said she had found a book and a binder I'd left behind. Asked me to come get them. My key still worked. When I arrived, she wasn't there. So I exhaled in relief, grabbed my things, and turned toward the door. That's when I saw her standing silently in the doorway, eyes fixed on me as if she had been there all along. I smiled awkwardly, mumbling a thank you. She didn't respond, just stared. "Where's your new room?" she asked, voice flat. "Downstairs." I lied. "Which hall?" "Near the stairs," I said quickly, even though it wasn't true. Her lips curved just slightly, not quite a smile. I walked past her without looking back. I don't know if she followed me, and I didn't want to know. I never saw her again. Sometimes I wonder if she was sick, or if she was sleepwalking, some strange side effect of her medication. My mom believed she was testing how close she could get before I woke up. Then maybe, one day, she would have done more than just touch my neck. I'll never know the truth, but I still sleep with the light on. And I still wake up, sometimes, thinking I can feel the bed sink beside me. It was late autumn when this happened. One of those nights when campus feels completely abandoned. The kind of night where the air feels too cold and the buildings too quiet. I was a senior at the University of Huddersfield, buried under deadlines. My advanced statistics professor had assigned a massive project, and my laptop had started dying on me at the worst possible time. Out of desperation, I decided to use one of the public computers in the business building, even though it was known to be a little eerie at night. The business building wasn't like the rest of campus. It was older, tucked away from the main footpaths, and had a sterile, hospital-like silence after dark. Its 3 floors were lit by dim fluorescent lights that buzzed faintly, and the air inside always smelled faintly of cleaning chemicals, as though it had been scrubbed of life. That night, the clock had just passed 10 p.m. when I swiped my student ID and heard the beep of the lock disengaging. My sneakers squeaked softly against the tile floor as I walked in. There was no one in sight, not even the cleaning staff. Perfect, I thought. No distractions. I went straight to the computer lab on the 2nd floor, the one tucked at the end of the hall where few people ever went. Rows of computers blinked softly in the dim light, their screensavers glowing like tiny windows. I sat down, logged in, and tried to lose myself in the data. For a while, it almost felt normal. The hum of the desktop tower, the clack of my fingers on the keyboard, the glow of the monitor, everything faded into routine. I reminded myself I'd leave by 1 a.m. at the latest. At 11:30, the first sound came. A door slamming somewhere down the hallway, sharp, heavy, echoing through the empty building. Not the main entrance. Deeper inside. I froze, listening, my heart already beginning to race. Maybe the wind? Maybe the pipes? Maybe the janitor? I told myself. But the janitors usually finished by 9, and I hadn't seen a soul when I walked in. I tried to brush it off, but my eyes kept flicking to the door. Then came the footsteps. Slow, deliberate, heavy. They echoed off the walls of the hallway, just outside the lab. Not hurried, not faint. Whoever it was, they wanted me to hear them. I sat motionless, staring at the monitor, ears straining. The footsteps drew closer, then stopped. Right outside the lab door. The lab door had a small, rectangular window. If I leaned back, I could see out into the hall, but I couldn't bring myself to look. I just sat there, holding my breath, listening. The silence stretched. Then the door handle rattled violently once, twice, again, like someone was trying to wrench it open. Not testing it. Not by accident. Deliberate. Intentional. My pulse pounded so hard, my vision blurred. The door was supposed to lock automatically after hours. That was my only comfort. But the way the handle shook made me sick to my stomach. It went on for what felt like 30 seconds before stopping. Then the footsteps returned, slow and steady, retreating down the hall. I let out a shaky breath. Maybe it was just another student messing around, I told myself. Maybe. I went back to typing, though my hands trembled against the keyboard. 10 minutes later, the noise came again, but not from the hall. From above, the ceiling in that building was lined with thin acoustic tiles, the kind you could push up to hide wires and pipes. And above me, something was moving. Not the creak of pipes, not the hum of air conditioning. This was weight deliberate, shifting weight, the sound of someone crawling. I tilted my head up slowly. One of the tiles near the corner trembled ever so slightly, as though pressed from above. Then another, closer to me, shifted just enough to reveal darkness behind it. My breath caught. A slow creak, like someone lowering themselves carefully, trying not to make noise. But they had miscalculated. I could hear them. They were right above me. I couldn't think. I grabbed my flash drive, yanked it from the port so hard it nearly bent, shoved my notebook into my backpack, and bolted for the door. The hallway beyond felt like another world, dim lights flickering. The smell of disinfectant sharp in my nostrils. Every sound amplified. My sneakers squealed against the tile as I tried to walk fast, not run. I didn't want whoever it was to hear panic in my footsteps. I reached the stairwell door, shoved it open, and stepped inside. The air was colder there, heavier.
They are watching us.
The stairwell was lit by a single buzzing light overhead. I started down quickly, my bag bouncing against my hip. Something told me to look up, even though I didn't want to.
Oh my God.
On the landing above me, one floor up, stood a man. Not a student, not a professor. His clothes were baggy and torn, his hair unkempt. His face was half in shadow, but his mouth was visible, stretched into an unnatural grin. He didn't move. He just stared down at me, head tilted slightly, eyes fixed. My stomach dropped. Instinct took over. I bolted. I flew down the stairs so fast I nearly tripped. I slammed through the first floor door and sprinted for the front entrance. My ID card barely registered against the reader in time. The lock clicked, and I shoved the door open, running out into the freezing night air. I didn't stop running until I was across campus, inside my dorm. My back pressed against the locked door as my lungs burned. The next morning, daylight made the business building look harmless again. Normal. But when I went back to turn in my project, my eyes went straight to the ceiling. 2 of the tiles were gone. The same tiles I'd seen moving above me the night before. The corner tile was missing, and so was the one directly over my chair. Like someone had been watching me work. Like they had planned to come down. I dread to think what would have happened if I hadn't left when I did. That smile on the stairs wasn't a prank. It was a warning. And I've never worked late in that building again.
Hello, can you hear me?
My name is Annabelle. I'm 20 now, but when this happened, I was 16. Just another awkward teenager trying to survive high school in a small town in the UK. It wasn't a bad place, really. New buildings, bright hallways, teachers who pretended to care. But sometimes, evil doesn't need the dark. Sometimes it walks right through the front door, wearing a smile and a teacher's badge. Our school was strict about security. Every student and staff member had to wear a lanyard with their ID visible at all times. The doors to the main corridors were locked, unless you scanned your card on the digital reader. Teachers warned us during assembly on the first day. Asterisk. Never let anyone in the building unless you know who they are.
My therapist says
Asterisk. It was supposed to make us feel safe, but it didn't save me that day. It was only my second week at the new school. I hadn't been feeling well the week before, so this was maybe my second or third full day there. Everything still felt unfamiliar. The smell of disinfectant, the hum of fluorescent lights, the sound of lockers clanging shut. That morning felt normal enough. I had geography all day, which meant hours trapped in the same classroom. Lunch came and went. I drank too much juice from the cafeteria. And 2 minutes later, I regretted it. I raised my hand, asked to use the bathroom. My teacher frowned. We weren't supposed to leave during class, but he sighed and waved me out. "Make it quick," he said. I nodded, already rushing out the door. The halls were silent, empty. During class hours, no one wandered around. Even the teachers seemed to vanish. The The silence was so thick that every sound, the click of my shoes, the creak of the double doors, echoed like thunder. I passed through the cafeteria, deserted now, tables perfectly lined, chairs stacked, the hum of the vending machine, the only noise. Then through another set of doors, down a corridor that led to the bathrooms. I remember thinking how sterile it all looked, how nothing about the place felt lived in yet. I used the restroom quickly and started back the way I came, pushing through the cafeteria doors again. And that's when I saw him. A man was sitting alone at one of the tables near the center of the room. He looked too old to be a student. Mid-30s, maybe, but his posture was casual, like he belonged there. He wore a button-up shirt and slacks, slightly wrinkled, like he'd been sitting for a while. Around his neck was a school lanyard. That, I thought, was enough proof he was a teacher. I didn't think twice. I was halfway across the room when he spoke. "Hey!" The word made me jump. It was so quiet that his voice felt unnatural, like it didn't belong in the silence. I laughed awkwardly, brushing hair from my face. He smiled. "Sorry," he said. "Didn't mean to scare you." His tone was friendly enough. I noticed then that his ID card was flipped around the photo side facing his chest. Students did that all the time. But teachers? Never. I didn't realize how strange that was until much later. "I need a bit of help," he said, standing up. "Could you give me a hand carrying some things from my car? It's just out front." His voice was calm, even polite. I didn't hesitate. "Sure," I said automatically. My teachers were always asking for help moving boxes or handing out papers. I was shy and eager to please. It never crossed my mind to say no. We walked out of the cafeteria together, through the foyer and out the front doors. The air outside was cool, crisp, and quiet. No students around. No teachers. The schoolyard stretched out, empty except for rows of parked cars. As we walked, I noticed he wasn't saying anything. Most adults made small talk, asked about your classes, your plans. But he was silent. His hands kept shifting first in his pockets, then clasped together, then rubbing at his knuckles. We approached the car park. It sat about 50 meters from the entrance, hidden behind a line of tall hedges. You couldn't see it from the building until you were right next to it. The man pointed ahead. "That blue car at the end," he said. "That's mine. Just in the trunk or the boot, as we call it." He chuckled. I nodded, pretending not to notice how my stomach had started to twist. As we got closer, I noticed something through the back window. A shape, then another. My steps slowed. There were people in the back seat, 2 of them, crouched low. My mind took a second too long to process what I was seeing. Then, one of them moved. The back door swung open. The man beside me lunged forward, grabbing my arm. His fingers were iron, digging into my skin. Panic exploded through me like electricity. I screamed, I think, and jerked backward, twisting as hard as I could. I'm small, barely 5'2", but adrenaline makes you stronger. I yanked my arm free, stumbling back toward the school. Behind me, footsteps thundered. More than one pair. I ran, lungs burning, legs trembling. The glass doors at the entrance were automatic slow. Too slow. I prayed under my breath as I neared them, terrified they wouldn't open in time. But just as I reached them, the sensors clicked. The doors slid open. I darted through, turned, and saw the man stop just outside. He didn't follow. He couldn't. The glass between us reflected his face expressionless, almost blank. I ran straight through the foyer into the open cafe connected to the library. A woman behind the counter looked up just as I burst in, gasping, sobbing, trying to speak. She grabbed her phone immediately, ushered me behind the counter, asking what happened. I could barely form words. Someone outside tried to... She didn't need to hear more. She locked the door, guided me into the back office, and called for help. My parents were contacted. So were the police. I gave a shaky description, every detail blurred by shock. They checked the security footage from the parking lot. The men were caught within hours, 3 of them in total. They had been seen earlier picking up something from the ground, a student lanyard someone had dropped outside the school gates. That's what the man had used to enter the building. That's why his ID was flipped backwards so no one would see it wasn't his face. It took me weeks to return to school. Even now, years later, I still see that moment, the car door swinging open, the grip on my arm, The silent chase across the pavement. My therapist says that memory will fade with time, but I don't think it ever will. That man smiled when he saw me run. Not angry, not panicked, just amused, like he had been waiting for me to notice all along. And sometimes, when I walk alone near parked cars, I swear I can feel eyes on me waiting behind the glass, smiling in the dark. When you listen to these stories, 3 different people, 3 different places, it's easy to tell yourself they're just coincidences, just bad luck. But what if they're not? What if these moments of horror are not random at all, but reminders that evil doesn't always wear a mask or live in the shadows? Sometimes it has a dorm key. Sometimes it walks the same halls as you. Sometimes it wears a lanyard. Each story began in a place that should have been safe. A college dorm, a classroom, a computer lab. Places where laughter should echo, not footsteps. But safety is fragile, and comfort is deceptive. The freshman thought she was alone until she felt the weight beside her. The senior thought the ceiling above was just part of the building, until something moved inside it. And Annabelle thought she was helping a teacher until she saw the faces waiting in the car. They all survived. But what about the ones who didn't? How many stories like these end differently, never told, never found? The truth is, real horror doesn't need monsters. It doesn't need ghosts. It hides inside ordinary moments in the quiet hours when you think you're safe. In the people who seem harmless. Evil isn't supernatural. It's human. It breathes, it plans, and it waits. So the next time you feel uneasy when your instincts whisper that something's wrong, listen. Don't ignore that voice. It might be the only thing standing between you and a nightmare that never ends. If these stories made your skin crawl, don't turn away, because these aren't just stories, they're warnings. Stay alert, stay safe, and never, ever assume you're alone, even when the door is locked. This is Time's Midnight Nocturne asterisk. Subscribe if you dare. New tales of true terror await, and the next one might make you look twice at the person sitting right beside you.